Good day. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School. And today is a really interesting day. We're going to have a really special topic to discuss about a really important issue that has to do with our schools and our kids and just, what it means for us to mentor our young people, what it means for us to build as a community, and all that good stuff. There's a lot to talk about today. In fact, this topic is one that is really controversial and really interesting. And have a good day, babe. Okay, I'll go ahead. Oh, sorry. It's really interesting, and there is a lot of discussion, a lot of chatter online about this. And so before we jump into this, I want to let you guys know who I'm here with. I'm here with Normal Language with Shellie Moses from healthyblackwoman.com, and she does a lot of other really interesting stuff. She lives down in Botswana, and she's coming in today to join me. How you doing today, Norma?
I'm doing great, Boyce. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. I think this topic is really, really a sensitive topic, and I want to talk about it in a manner that's fair and it allows us to think. In case you guys don't know, just to remind you, drboycetv.com, it is the home for intelligent Black people. It doesn't mean you have to be intelligent. You just kind of have to want to be intelligent. And if you are not Black and intelligent or want to be intelligent, then you probably want to leave, because this is not the place for you, because we're going to probably hurt your feelings, because we're going to challenge you. Now, with that said, I hope everybody will do this for me real quick. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't done this yet. Please hit that thumbs up button. Also, if you would do me the honor, please, we always do a city shout out at the start of every live stream discussion. So shout out your city, your business, or your dream. Your city, your business, or your dream. And let me see what we have here. I see Todd Thompson is from Milwaukee, Noma, in case you wanted to know. Todd, so what's going on, Todd? I see Eddie Ellis and Murad. I made a comment, but I think we have to avoid hate. Okay, interesting. Charles Ingram says, Grand Rising, good to see you. I see Erica from Oakland. Let's see who else is in here. Who else we got in the house? I see Spencer Forrest and Stefan and Terrence and Jermaine from Chicago. Okay, I see two Chicagos in a row. Let's get Lamont Hawkins. How you doing? Andrew from Toronto. I think you guys have a good basketball team. Are you guys still in the playoffs? Did y'all get eliminated already? Because you always get eliminated in the first 30 seconds of the playoffs. Let me see here. I see Detroit in the building. Eric from Detroit, Paul from New Jersey, and a whole lot of other interesting people, mostly Black people. Oh, here we go. I see Keena Edwards from Florida. I see Roy Carter. How you doing, Roy? T Math from Houston. Okay, Houston. Yeah, I talked to Willie D last night. I was on his show. Willie D's from the Ghetto Boys. He lives in Houston, and I asked Willie D to partner with us on the All Black National Convention. The All Black National Convention takes place in Houston in the month of September 27th, that weekend. So please take a look. It's allblacknationalconvention.com. You're going to love it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be in Houston. We're going to sell out because we deliberately picked a venue that wasn't going to be too big, because we wanted it to be an intimate experience. So just so you know, you may want to take a look. Everybody who goes loves it. If you went last year, let everybody know how great it was. Let's see, Marcel from Mississippi. John J, how you doing? What's up, DJ Darkside? Thank you for being such a great moderator. I see Extra Cheese from Syracuse, Ill Will, Atlanta, Africa Smith from Atlantic City in New Jersey, and a whole lot of other people. And my ancestor keeper says, damn, you can't see me. Yes, I can see you, but I can't see everything. Damn it, I can't see everything. Anyway, all right, so hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up if you haven't done this. So Nomalanga, let me ask you about this topic for today, so that also as we get started, I want everybody to know that Nomalanga runs a charity called Pads for Our Girls, and it's basically helping young women in Botswana to obtain sanitary pads, because I don't know if you all know, but that's a serious problem where a lot of them have to miss school because of the menstrual cycle. And so if you care about our girls, I hope you will go to padsforourgirls.com. That's padsforourgirls.com. Okay, so Noma, let me read this to you so that we can kind of jump into the conversation. There's a lot of discussion to be had on this topic. There is a principal, and I have her name here. Her name is Carlotta Outley Brown, and Carlotta Outley Brown is the principal of James Madison High School in Houston. This week, she gained national attention in the media because she issued new rules this month after one mother allegedly showed up. I'm reading from CBS News. One mother allegedly showed up at the school wearing a head wrap and t-shirt dress. The parental dress code applies only to the high school, not to the rest of the district. While some support it, others are in an uproar. So basically, she says that that she has now banned, or this is what the story says. Basically, Miss Brown has banned parents, not kids, parents, from wearing the following: satin caps, bonnets, shower caps, hair rollers, pajamas, torn jeans showing lots of skin, uncovered leggings, low-cut tops, sagging pants, undershirts, short shorts, and dresses that reveal your ass. And they actually say derriere in the article, but we know what a derriere is. A derriere is short, or it's long for ass. So, Nomalanga, what say you?
I want to verify because I couldn't tell from reading the articles if Ms. Brown was a Black woman or a white woman, but she's sounding like she's a Black woman. So when I originally thought that Ms. Brown was white, I was livid. But now that I know that it's a Black woman, I do feel differently. I think that all of the things that you mentioned that Ms. Brown has banned are disgusting, and she very well should ban them. And I feel hurt that our children, some of our children have parents who need to be told not to wear those things or not to come in public wearing those things. You know, I know everybody isn't raised the way I was or doesn't have to follow the values or the protocol of my family, but I was always taught that when you leave the house, you are representing your whole family. So imagine the husband of the woman who shows up with her derriere out and a bonnet on her head and her tattered jeans and all that. What kind of message does that say about her family, and what does that say about her children? I think Ms. Brown is right. I know that people hate being told what to do, but in this particular instance, as parents and as teachers, which we happen to be both, you and I, we always have a partnership to raise good contributing members of society. And the first thing that we can do is set a good example.
Interesting. Everybody who just came in, I'm talking to Nomalanga Shellie Moses, and we're talking about a principal in Houston by the name of Carlotta Outley Brown, who has banned parents, not the kids, parents, from dressing in a way that she defines to be inappropriate. And basically it's kind of gotten this really interesting mixed reaction on the internet. I mean, when I put it on my Instagram, and my Instagram, if you guys ever want to come into the conversations, it's the real Boyce Watkins. But just know, like, I'm probably going to offend you at some point because I love to talk about everything, because the world is a big classroom. You know, I'm a teacher myself, and I think that the best way to learn is to look at what's happening in the world and find the teachable moment. So a lot of people get mad at me though. They're like, oh, you're just posting gossipy stuff. And I'm like, no, there's always a master plan. I'm always thinking at a higher level. So whatever it is. So anyway, but it's the real Boyce Watkins if you guys want to join the discussion. And what I noticed instantly, Noma, is that, you know, I saw immediately that the Black community, first of all, it was interesting because a lot of people just instantly knew she was Black. Like I did too. I didn't even look to see if she was Black. That just said to me like, oh, she's Black. Because the thing is, it's funny that you brought up that dynamic, the racial dynamic, because if it had been a white woman, a lot of us would have been pissed off. Like, who the hell are you?
I would have been pissed off too, because then she's specifically singling us out in specific things. It's like saying, you're not allowed in this club if your nose is too broad. I mean, whose nose is broad?
Interesting. Yeah, and I think that, you know, and I think even white people know better, right? White people know, like, no, you know, they know you can't, that as a white person, they can't get away with that. So the fact that we instantly knew that she was Black really says a lot about our society, in the sense that we know that a white person would rarely have the audacity to publicly make a statement like that, even though white people can do some really interesting things. You know, because I didn't even look to see if she was black. I just kind of knew she was black. Later on I saw her name. Her name was Carlotta, and I was like, oh, that's not a white lady. I saw her picture. You know, so you put all the pieces together. But you're absolutely correct. I mean, if a white person had said this, then there would be no debate almost in terms of whether it's acceptable. So why do you think it means so much, or has such a different interpretation when a black woman says it versus a white woman?
Well, it's not just an interpretation. For me, it's a very, very firm belief. I talk about it a lot with, like, you know, when we're talking about all those molestation and predator charges with Bill Cosby, R. Kelly, and all that. One of the things that I said was, or even Michael Jackson, remember, we were all hurt that Oprah was the one who was throwing Michael Jackson to the wolves, because there's a thing about the outside and the inside, right? And it's like when you're in a family, which Black people are like an extended family to each other, you want to take care of your own stuff within the family, right? But you don't want, like if you're a mother and you believe in beating kids, which I don't, you want to beat your own kid, but you'd be very mad if the police beat your kid, right? Because it's not the same thing. You want to be able to discipline or be accountable, responsible to each other, but other people from the outside don't get to decide for you what you should be responsible and accountable for, and dish out the punishment. Those are two very, very separate things. So a white woman on the outside who doesn't even know why women wear bonnets saying don't wear those bonnets has a very different ring to a Black woman saying, come on, sisters, we need to do better. Don't show up here with your bonnets and your rollers and your tattered jeans and your butts out. That's unacceptable. All of those things are disgusting. They're disgusting. And no, you should not be out there like that, especially where they're children.
Well, you know what? Let me just say this. We took a survey at Your Black World, and basically we asked people what they thought, you know, and we specifically just said, you know, is it a good decision or a bad decision, right? We didn't. I tried not to put too much language in there that would bias the result. And overwhelmingly,
what a good decision, having a standard.
Well, what we did was we asked them, do you agree with the principal's decision, basically? Okay. And I said, is it a good decision, bad decision, or are you undecided? And 74% of the respondents, and most of the people on our platforms are pretty Black. Like we have very Black platforms. Like you're not gonna have a lot of white people in here. 74% said that they think it's a good decision. So, you know, the overwhelming majority of the respondents in our space, you know, we tend to attract Black people that have a strong Black identity, you know, very almost to the point of us being somewhat radical because we're pushing for change. But also, you know, there's sort of an expectation for, you know, for us to push each other to do better, right? But, you know, but I do wonder, like if that same survey had been taken at, say, BET.com, right? Or if they took the survey at the BET Hip Hop Awards, like what the result would have been. I'm not one to even say that it's right or wrong. I learned by trying to see both sides of the argument, right? So I talked to a friend of mine who's a very liberal, you know, liberal person, you know, very much into social sciences and poverty and things like that. And her opinion was very clear. She said that it's inappropriate, it's unacceptable. You know, you should be happy that the parents are even showing up. Like, you know, if a parent's engaged, she said, I worked in the school system, and when we had a parent that was engaged, that's all we wanted. We didn't really need them. We didn't care what they look like. Who cares what they're dressed like? Some people come right after work. Some people come right after the gym. Why is that a problem? Who cares what they look like, right? So what do you say to people who say that, who just say, look, the parents are involved. You have some well-dressed parents who don't show up at school at all. So why would you punish and chastise the parents who showed up just because they weren't dressed the way you feel that they should be dressed? What do you say? Well,
my understanding was that this is primarily a drop-off problem. You know, it's not like they're coming to the PTA meeting with their bonnets and such. So you can't take 5 minutes to look decent to drop off your child. I don't understand where the problem is. You do. I mean, honestly, look. You know me, I feel like parents should primarily homeschool their kids, right? So they shouldn't even be taking them to school in the first place, right? But one of the things that you should do, if you're going to take your child to the school, Answer me this, boys. If I was a teacher and one parent showed up looking respectable, and by respectable, I don't mean decked out in a full three-piece suit or anything like that. I just mean looking decent and respectable. And one looked a hot mess with the bonnet and the flip-flops and, you know, the half of their butt is hanging out. What impression do you form about the family, and how do you think the child is going to be treated within the school when the parent is not there?
Interesting. Well, you know, I think you make a good point. I mean, you know, I think that it almost seems like it comes down to the difference between the way the world is and the way the world should be. Right. It's very similar to that argument about, you know, about sexual assault. You know, like look, if you don't want to be assaulted, don't go to the man's room at 2 o'clock in the morning. Don't lead him on in a certain way. You know what I mean?
Don't drink until you don't know what's going on.
Right. Don't drink until you pass out. Right. And it doesn't justify sexual assault. It doesn't say that it's okay. But what it does say is that there are ways to protect yourself from certain behavior that we all agree is inappropriate. But then there are those who say, no, it doesn't matter how a person dresses. It doesn't matter. She can go to his room at 2 o'clock in the morning if she wants. She can also drink as much as she wants until she passes out. And you shouldn't at any point hold her accountable, right? You can't, you know, she has no say, no role in any of this, right? And so some would say that you're taking away that person's power, right, by saying you have no choice in what happens to you. Like, it can just happen to anybody. And I think that that's not realistic, right? We know that some things happen that couldn't happen to anybody, right? But at the same time, I think there's a point to say, you know, who's the real culprit, right? Who's the real villain in this, right? So the villain, when you talk about parents, right, dressing a certain way, you know, there is a clear connection in terms of what the teacher's saying is really interesting. It is funny because she's actually gotten like national awards for being this great principal. But what Ms. Brown was saying is, you know, you are your child's first teacher. Your child is going to copy what they see. Your child is going to want to be like you when they grow up. They're not going to want to be like me. And so what she's saying is, look, if your child sees you coming to school, coming to a, you know, a professional organized setting, and you're dressed, you know, any old kind of way, you know, the do-rag, you know, the rollers in your hair, the sagging pants, booty hanging out, all that, then your child's going to walk away and into this world thinking, okay, I can just dress however I want and nobody has the right to judge me. And I think that that's fine to a point, unless your child is ever going to go apply for a job. If your child goes and applies for a job and they're dressed, they got the booty hanging out and rollers in their hair, they're not going to get that job, right? And so now my answer would be, well, you know, you can dress however you want. Just make sure you start your own business so that, you know, so you ain't got to go out and impress, you know, other people. But and even with your own business, you still have to, you know,
you still have to get clients. You still have to be seen as respectable and responsible.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting perspective. I mean, you know, so how do you form a balance, you know, in that conversation, Noma, in terms of, you know, respecting the rights of parents to be the individuals that they are and to do what they feel is best for themselves or their children, versus, you know, sort of setting a standard for the school? You know, how do you balance that?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to say, which is sad, is that schools are taking on more and more of the responsibility of raising children than the parents are. And you're going to see that schools start reaching further and further into the personal lives of parents or into the families of the children, because the parents they're just not doing what they're supposed to do, right? So that first thing there that you said is the parent is supposed to be the good example for the child. So obviously this principal is seeing that these parents are failing, not just in how they dress. I'm willing to bet the same parents with the bonnets and the butts hanging out are the same ones who don't know if their kids did their homework or not, if they're reading or writing or anything like that. I'm willing to bet that this principal, especially if you say she's an award-winning principal and somebody who really cares about her school and about the children in her school, is somebody who cares enough to try and create rules that protect the children, or at least create a better environment for the children. So I don't think it's just about a dress code.
Interesting. Everybody, I'm speaking with Noma Shellie Moses, and we're talking about the principal in Houston, Carlotta Brown, who has gotten a lot of national attention for enforcing a dress code in her school. She has basically told the parents that that you just can't come to campus wearing anything that you want. She specifically banned things like bonnets in the hair, sagging pants, dresses that show too much of your butt, shower caps, hair rollers, pajamas, torn jeans showing lots of skin, etc. And so it's drawn a lot of controversy. Do me a favor, please. Right now, take 1 second. Please hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please hit the thumbs up button right now. Please hit it right now. I want to say thank you to Vicki Dillard, for the great Vicki Dillard from FlyNubianQueenTV.com, who's here. Also, Noma Langa is a contributor on FlyNubianQueenTV.com, and also she runs a charity called PadsForOurGirls.com, which provides sanitary napkins or sanitary pads for young ladies in Botswana. So if you want to support the charity, please go to PadsForOurGirls.com. And also I want to remind everybody tonight we're going to do a special screening of the latest product from Boyce Watkins Films, which is Black Capital. It's free of charge. You can come in. You have to be in the Black Business School though to get the invite emailed to you. So if you want to come to Black Capital tonight, go to theblackbusinessschool.com. And also don't forget we're on iTunes now, so you can download the podcast on iTunes if you want to listen on in your car, etc. Now, Noma,
I was going to add one more thing, Boyce, on that thing about how schools are taking on more. There was this video that was just so annoying to me, and I know people were sharing it over and over because they thought it was so great. It was about a principal who did a YouTube video or a series of YouTube videos so that every night her students could tune into YouTube and she would read them bedtime stories or read to them. And nobody's looking at the fact that the principal is doing that means that she knows that those parents are not doing it. And that to me is it's something that hurts my heart. It means that parents are not doing things for their children that they ought to do. So schools are taking on more and more and more to try and build up responsible, or at least put out barely educated children because their parents are not participating. So I don't think we get to say anything when we have taken a back seat to our own children's education and raising. We don't get to complain when the principal sets some rules that are designed to set a good example for our children.
So do you think that that there is sort of an understanding that when it comes to Black people, or particularly say poor Black people, that we're more inclined to set lower expectations, that we're kind of inclined to say, oh yeah, well, we know that they're not gonna be as good as, the parenting's not gonna be as high quality, so we're gonna kind of let certain things slide, as opposed to a suburban. Like I wonder if it were a suburban school or a white school, if you'd have that same conversation or that same controversy, about sort of saying to people like, look, this is the way we do things in the school. We raise the bar, we set the standard. I mean, there are people that have actually said in studies that the cultures of that tend to be most successful, like Nigerian culture, Jewish culture, etc., they tend to have this sort of perceived sense of superiority where they feel like, look, when you go out, you're representing your family because your family is an important family. Even if you don't have a lot of money, you want, you want to present yourself in a respectable way, right? Right. Education is high priority, like not in the Nigerian culture. Education matters, discipline matters, things like that. So you almost wonder, like, are there people that almost handicap certain parents when they say, no, well, we understand, we're not going to hold you to any kind of standard because we know that you can't compete. Like we don't expect you to go and become the CEO of a corporation because I mean, of course you think that it's okay to wear hair rollers and a do-rag and sagging pants and to show your butt. So we're not even going to really say anything to you about it because we don't want to hurt your feelings and we want you to be comfortable, but you're going to be comfortable in your marginalized state, right? Like no one, when your child comes out into the world, and I'm not telling you guys what to think on this. I'm just encouraging you to think about it, right? So it's not about what your opinions, it's about sort of analyzing it, right? So I grow up, I will say this, I had certain people that did tell me, hey, Boyce, that's not acceptable. You can't do this, you can't do that. My parents would just say, no, you can't dress this way in this type of setting. And I would be mortified if they'd never told me that. And I went into the world expecting that to be okay, right? And so it's almost like sometimes when you are dealing with somebody, it's almost like maybe like I knew, you look at a parent with a handicapped child, right, or a child that has autism. I knew a mom who had a child that had mild autism, and she never told him that he had mild autism. She said, because
Right.
I'm going to push him to raise the bar and go to a higher standard, so he can adjust and adapt and fit and achieve his goals. I'm not going to, coddle him and say, oh, well, because you have this autism, you shouldn't be held to the same standard, because she felt that that would make things worse for him long term. And actually what did happen is her son, to this day, I don't even know if her son even knows he had mild autism. He's a little strange, but
He functions.
yeah. So what do you think? I mean, do you think that there's something to be said about almost feeling too sorry for somebody to the point where you
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another great example was Ray Charles. His mother told him, don't ever let anybody treat you like a cripple or tell you that you're a cripple. And look at what he did. He did things that people who have full vision will never, ever accomplish. But to answer your question, yeah, I actually find it insulting when the bar is lowered for Black people. Because yes, we have to balance empathy and compassion, right? But people generally rise to the standards that you set or to your expectations. So when you lower the expectation, it's actually insulting, because what you're saying is you can't accomplish or achieve like us, so we're going to lower the bar for you. Like I said, I'm hurt that that this principal had to even say this. I would think that she wouldn't have to tell parents that please set a good example for your children. Please dress decent to be in public.
Well, you know what's interesting? I saw somebody make a comment on this, and I agree. And I want to say thank you for your donation, Big Lou. Big Lou says the rules are controversial because people's morals and standards are in the dumpster. The do-A's thy will mentally is satanic. And okay, I don't get that last sentence, brother. The last sentence you lost me, Big Lou, but I think I hear what you're saying. But then I've heard people that will say, who decides that this is a higher standard, right? Just because I dress differently, does that mean that I'm presenting myself in a better fashion, or does that mean I'm just sort of fitting into a culture, right? Someone says this is white man stuff. Why would you, tell Black people that they have to be acceptable in order to fit in, or in order to be okay with the rest of us? What would you say to something like that?
Right. I don't like that argument, because we all understand when you're going for an interview, regardless of whether it's a job or whatever, if you understand that another person is going to assess your competence for anything, you understand that you have to look your best. So if you can grasp that concept, then you can understand that, yes, you can be an individual. I will never walk down the street in a bathing suit. Ever, for no reason. I'll never take a picture and put it on Instagram and do that. But I've been in pageants, because in that context, there's a swimsuit competition and everybody's wearing a bathing suit. So we're okay wearing bathing suit. I've been to the beach. I've been to the swimming pool. I wear a bathing suit. In that particular environment, it's okay. But I understand that I can't do that somewhere else. And the same thing applies. You can be creative and express yourself as much as you like, but it depends where you are and where you're going. You can't go and express yourself with your butt out at school with children. Go express that at a nightclub, or at a sleazy nightclub for that.
Interesting. Everybody, I'm talking to Normal Language with Shellie Moses, and we're talking about Principal Carlotta Brown and her school, if I'm not mistaken, James Madison High School in Houston, where Carlotta Brown, Miss Brown, has put out a dress code for parents. And basically, she's told parents, don't come to school with sagging pants. Don't come to school with your butt out. Don't come to school with low-hanging outfits, showing too much. Don't come to school with rollers in your hair, things like that. And it's led to some controversy. Hit the thumbs up button if you haven't hit the thumbs up button. Also, don't forget, today at 2 p.m. Eastern, Dr. Claude Anderson is coming in for Powernomics Thursday. He'll be here today. And also, if you want something for your kids to do this summer, we do have the financial workbooks back in stock. You guys know they sold out. But if you're looking for an activity for your kids, you can go to financialworkbooks.com. That's financialworkbooks.com. We have financial workbooks for children of all ages, all grade bands. We got Black experts that put these things together just for your kids. So feel free to go check that out. So let me throw this out there, Noma. So I was looking at the comments, right? And I was looking at what people said on Instagram, right? On, you know, and on Instagram, I was really fascinated by how literally the comments went this way, this way, this way, that way, this way, that way. It wasn't sort of like there was a general trend, right? So, for example, the first one comment I see here is that this is overkill. Your job is to educate the children, not to be the fashion police for the parents. So that comment, you know, a lot of people hit the like button on that. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Then the very next person says, if people can adhere to the dress code at the club where they're trying to stunt, why don't they give the school the same respect?
Exactly.
What do you say about that in terms of people feel now, mind you, I don't know if this is, I mean, I assume it's true. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to go with what CBS News is reporting, but according to CBS News, James Madison is a failing school, right? And there are parents who've said, look, you got a failing school. Tamika Miller says, this is a failing school. You have other things to worry about than my attire. So she's saying, look, you're worried about the wrong stuff. You need to worry about improving the standards of your school academically before you start telling the parents how they can dress. What do you say to that?
Well, I think a lot of people don't understand that oftentimes there's a correlation between failing academically, right? Children who fail academically and their home life. There's a correlation. I know a lot of people who've taught, I've never taught small children except my own. I know a lot of teachers who've taught like elementary, middle school, and high school levels. And one of the things that they say is when a child is failing academically, if they're really invested in solving the problem of why the child is failing, they have to go in and look at their home life. And they'll often find sometimes parents are going through a divorce, there's been a death in the family, they've lost their house. There's some kind of disruption in the home life that then affects the child's academic performance. So it's actually quite ignorant to say just focus on academics and forget about everything else, because and that's another thing, especially with schools in low-income areas. Do you know that one of the things that they have to do is make sure that those children have actually eaten? Because some children are so hungry that they can't even focus in school. Some children have such a disruptive home life that they haven't even gotten enough sleep, so they can't focus in school. So sometimes it's just two basic things which have to do with their home life. It's that there's too much drama or stuff going on, that they're not even getting basic good meals. They're not getting enough sleep, and they can't perform, quote unquote, academically because of these other factors. So as an educator, if you want to solve this low academic performance problem, you already know that one of the things that you have to, I guess, attend to or start with is, you know, who are the children's role models? What are their home lives like? And I'm sorry, if I see you with your butt hanging out in a bonnet and some flip-flops and you're looking a hot mess dropping off your child, I'm going to assume there's something wrong with your home life. Very wrong.
Well, you know, what's interesting in all of this, right, is that teachers, and I will say that I've always felt that we put a lot of blame on the teachers that for things that they can't control, right?
Right.
You know, we know how bad the schools are. We know about the underfunding and everything else, but a lot of times, you know, I've seen teachers, very dedicated, hardworking teachers, who are really frustrated because there are certain things that they want to be able to control, but they can't. They're
Right.
you know, they're hamstrung by the system itself and the, you know, certain core, the Common Core and whatever crap the government tells them to do, and then they're hamstrung by what the parents will and won't do. You know, like I know, for example, there are communities, and there was a time where, you know, if you called the parent, if you said, I'm gonna get your mother on the phone, the mother would set the child straight, because it was a partnership between the parent and the teacher. And, you know, now you have teachers that deal with parents that either aren't there, don't care, or will cuss out the teacher, right? I remember hearing a kid one time, a long time ago, who was like, basically, you know, she was having trouble with school, and the teachers were putting her in detention, and she said, well, my teacher's racist, right? And then I saw the mom, and the mom was like, yeah, that teacher's racist. And she was saying that in front of the child. So the child was just repeating what they heard the mother say, right? And I know that definitely in my household, if my mother had an issue with the teacher, I never heard it. I know my mother would fight with the teachers. My father, they would have to go to battle with them. but they would never do that in front of me, you know, and I don't know if that was, and the funny thing is, it's not like, you know, my parents got these, you know, this approach from growing up, you know, in Bel Air or Martha's Vineyard, or that they were wealthy people. Both of my parents grew up, you know, my mother was very poor and my father, you know, was pretty poor. You know what I mean? Like they were working class anyway, right? So they grew up in the hood or all that stuff, right? So it's not like there is some sort of like definite class distinction here. But there's like a sort of a change in culture, something that's happened in our community. Now what's interesting to me too is that if you look at a teacher is like a doctor, right? You know, a doctor has certain responsibilities. They play a big role in whether the patient gets healthy or not, etc. But the doctor can't make the patient healthy if the patient is not getting what they need at home. You know, if the patient's not doing what they're supposed to do, if they're not taking their medication, if they insist on eating bad food, if they're doing stuff at home that's completely contradictory to what the doctor's trying to do, then the patient's gonna die. And you can't say it's all the doctor's fault. Sometimes the doctor's like, I tried, I warned him, I didn't, you know. So we know that the ability of the teacher to do their job is affected by the parent, but also the parent's ability to do their job is affected by our society. You know, a lot of the reason that, like, you look at Chicago schools, for example, where I live, a lot of the reason that you have, you know, so many single parent homes and so many parents that are ill prepared is because, number one, the Chicago public school system isn't very good. So a lot of the parents came out of a bad school system. So the parents graduate from high school, can't even read. So they're not necessarily aware of what they need to do to help their kids. But then also mass incarceration. A lot of the fathers are gone, right? So you don't have complete households anymore. You have people just doing the best they can with what they've got, right? So it's interesting, right? You know, what happens at school is affected by what happens at home, and what happens at home is affected by what happens in society. And then, but then what's so crazy is that what happens in society is also affected by what happens at school and what happens in the home. So it's all connected to each other, right? Like, you know, whatever we're teaching our kids in this generation affects society in the next generation. Right? You know, politics, like our politics is completely ignorant because we don't educate our people on how the political system is supposed to work. Right. So basically, you know, it's this really impossible issue. And it almost seems that as Black people, we've got to sort of pull away from some of that and really have the hard conversations and maybe hurt some feelings and say, look, this is what it is. Right. You know, if your child is imitating you dressing any old kind of way, going into a professional setting, they're going to do the same thing, which is going to make it really difficult for them to get what they want out of life, to get jobs, things like that. If you're going to do that, if you think that it's okay to dress that way or do whatever, then okay, well, you better know how to start your own business, and it better be a business where you can work from home and you can stay in your pajamas. Like I kid you not, there are a lot of days where I break all the dress codes. I wear pajamas all day long, right? All day long, right? Well, you know why I can do that? You know why I can do that, Noma? I can do that because I work from home, right? And I started my own business. But do you think for a second that if I was in the white man's business, that I would come to work dressed the same way I dress when I'm running my own business? Hell no, I can't. I would get fired, right? Is that fair? Maybe not, but it don't matter what I think is fair. What matters is what it takes for me to survive. Noma, what say you to all of that? I'm going to stop talking.
There's another part to that. Yeah, you can wear pajamas at home all day, but I'm willing to bet if, let's say CNN called you and said, hey, we need your expertise, or whatever, you know, called you and said, we need your expertise. You're not going in those pajamas, or if you are, it's on the bottom part that they can't see, right? And at the top, you're going to give the appearance of a suit or whatever. You're not going to come in your pajamas and say, well, you know, I'm self-employed and my opinion is so important that I can give it in these pajamas. Because you understand that your credibility is going to be affected by the way that you look. So you take the time to make yourself presentable. So even there's a limit to that freedom that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, you know, I mean, it's almost, you know, when people talk about freedom, right? Hit the thumbs up button, by the way. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. Also, please share. I'm speaking with Noma Lang and with Shellie Moses, and we're talking about Principal Carlotta Brown out of Houston. James Madison High School and her decision to enforce a dress code on the parents, not the kids, on the parents. No sagging pants, no low cut outfits, no dresses with your butt hanging out, things like that. Also, No Malanga's website is padsforourgirls.com. That's padsforourgirls.com. She is working very, very hard to supply sanitary napkins to young ladies in Botswana. I think is that the right term, or did I sound overly fancy?
Yes, sanitary napkins is correct, and we're trying to get them free to them.
Okay, I've never had a menstrual cycle, and so I don't know the right terminology to use. But then again, hey, maybe I can go to Morehouse College, because now Morehouse students will be having menstrual cycles and getting pregnant. I'm kidding. That was a low blow. But no, but seriously though, I don't know if you heard that, but now Morehouse is actually accepting. Well, they're accepting transgender students and also women who identify as men. So based on what I read, and
those are transgender.
Say it again.
Women who identify as men are transgender.
Is that trans? I thought transgender meant you maybe have both parts. So that's a certain type of transgender.
That's not transgender.
Then what is it when you have both? I'm not gonna. I'm
not experts in this area, so let's move away from it.
I don't want to say anything ignorant.
Yeah.
But so I'm gonna go. But yeah. So basically, long story short, if you are a woman and you identify as a man, then you can go to Morehouse. Which is interesting. So I said, okay, it's only a matter of time before there's a Morehouse student who's pregnant. It's going to happen, and that's going to be like international headlines. And I think that. I think Black people have a reason to be concerned about that. I don't know. You guys tell me what you think. Yes or no? Yes or no? Do you think it's good or bad that Morehouse has changed his policy? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no. But I mean, I think that Black people have a reason to be a little bit concerned over this idea that this institution that was once seen as the West Point for Black men, as the principal, or not the principal, excuse me, as the president described the school. It can't be a West Point if that's what for Black men, or the key, or how can I say it? The premier developmental institution for Black males in America anymore. It's just not, right? It doesn't mean that it's not a great school. It doesn't mean that they can't teach you biology and English and everything else really well. But in terms of being this place that's producing these strong Black men that we need to build and defend the community, it's not solving that problem. And that's one of our biggest problems, is that our men have been weakened and crippled. So our problems are different from white people's problems, right? Maybe white people's problems are, they eat too much sugar, or they, their educational system needs to be improved, or they pick terrible presidents. Our problem is we don't have enough strong men leading our community. So we need processes that are going to develop those men. And Morehouse, is not that place anymore. It's very unfortunate to say that, but it's just not. But go ahead. No, what are your thoughts on that?
I was just going to say that maybe they didn't really have a choice, because laws have changed now, and I think you may not necessarily be allowed to exclude different people, because I've watched over the years the LGB, it used to be LG, lesbians and gays, and then there was T, and then there was a Q, and it just gets longer and longer and longer, but that's a protected class, and you can't discriminate against those people. So it may very well be that they don't have a choice, and they have to now expand their admission criteria, or else they're breaking the law. Just in the same way, like right now, you can't really say, I don't want Black people in my restaurant, even if you don't want them. You can't say it. You have to say they're welcome, even though they're not.
Yes, I'd be curious. Is it possible? And I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Maybe I'll look around and research this. But are there places where you can create institutions that fit the image that you want? Like, I know that at the same time Morehouse said we're going to bring in transgender students, there were other schools that were similar to Morehouse that weren't Black that said, no, we're not doing that, right? So there must be some room to still make your own decision. And I would argue that it's the over dependence on federal money for our HBCUs that causes.
Yes, I was going to say that. So they have to do that. You now have gay people suing Christian bakeries for not baking their cakes. That's where we are right now. And you have people who say they want to be gays and lesbians and work at Christian colleges when their doctrine or their dogma, whatever you want to call it, expressly says that this is not right, but they want to just be included. And again, the law says that they have to be included. I'm not judging anybody for their lifestyle or whatever, but if I was gay, I certainly wouldn't be knocking on a church that says that I should burn in hell and want to be in the pews with them. I wouldn't want that. But you're getting people who say that they want that, and I'm willing to bet that that's what happened at Morehouse. Is they had to change their admissions criteria to abide by the law. I could be wrong.
But I'm gonna challenge that a little bit, because here's the thing: there are white schools that are still all male. In fact, there are I think 3 or 4 all male non-religious. There are 3 private non-religious 4-year all male institutions in the United States, right? So I'm curious as to how they can be all male and Morehouse can't. I don't think it's a situation.
But a transgender person identifies as a male.
Sorry?
A transgender person, like a woman who identifies as a male, identifies as a male.
Right, but I'd be willing to bet. See, black people fold. Black people are big wusses. We're trained to sort of do whatever white people tell us to do because we're scared, and then we act like we had no choice. When really,
they'll take their money away.
Right. There you go. So you had a choice. You just didn't want to make the hard choice. That's what, like even in that conversation, I didn't say much about it, but even when they had that conversation where Kanye West said slavery was a choice, I didn't say much about it because it was such a nuanced argument that it would cause people to think that I was agreeing with Kanye and that I think that I like Kanye as a person, as an intellectual. I don't agree with a lot of what he says. I think he kind of lost it after his mother died. But, there are warrior societies and warrior cultures that would say slavery is always a choice. Like, it's always a choice. The Native Americans felt that slavery was a choice. They were like, well, our choice is either to be slaves or die. I'd rather die. I'm choosing to die, right? Black people are the only ones who will say, well, I had no choice. They was going to take my job, right? And it's like, but you got a choice. It's just a hard choice, right? And I think that when you act like you don't have a choice, you're giving a lot of power over to your oppressor as if your destiny is predefined. And that's the key to depression, and that is also the key to powerlessness. Like, I like to, when I go through like anything I do, I like to always remind myself I always have a choice. But sometimes I'll say, but you know what, it's an impossible choice, and I'm not going to choose, that other option over there because it's just too painful, right? But you always.
I like that you use the word powerlessness.
Sorry?
I said, I like that you use the word powerlessness, because I've come to realize, whether, you said I live in Botswana, but I really live in Boston, Massachusetts. But whether it was in America dealing with Black people, or here in Botswana or African countries dealing again with Black people, I've come to understand that a lot of us have a deeply ingrained victim identity that will make people very, very upset if you shake it. So if you tell somebody who identifies as a victim that they have a choice, and they feel powerless and they feel like they're a victim, and you're telling them, no, you're actually empowered to make a decision and stop something, then that threatens their victim identity, and they will come down on you, and they will come down on you hard. Because you're threatening their very, very their identity. Well, so that's something I try to sometimes just stay away from. Like, they could be victims over there and I'll be a non-victim over here.
Yeah, well, there was actually a TED Talk that got almost 10 million views. And in the TED Talk, that's what the lady said. She said it was like something like how to be mentally tough. And I don't remember all the 3 things she said that you have to do to be mentally tough. But I know one of the things that she said is that if you want to be mentally weak, then you should go through life believing that it's always somebody else's fault. Like we love to believe that we have no accountability, no ability, capability whatsoever to define our condition. Like, there are Black people out there that literally will make fun of Black people who believe that we can do for self or whatever. And she named a couple of other things, and I was listening. I said, oh my God, that's how Black people are raised to think. And many of us are just raised to believe that you have no choice, that it's somebody else's fault, that that your life is in the hands of other people, and it's very stressful, right? Because you just carry this victimhood, and you just sort of feel like you're floating through life and hoping for the best and praying to praying to white Jesus that it's going to get better. And it's sad. It's not, it's the majority of our people. And so I agree with you. So let's finish on this topic here. Hit the thumbs up button, everybody. If you haven't hit the thumbs up button, please do that. Don't forget that we are on iTunes. Dr. Boyce TV is on iTunes. Also, if you want to support the platform and help us spread intelligent conversation throughout the Black community, please go to intelligentblackpeople.com. That's intelligentblackpeople.com. Thank you to those who've made donations today. We really appreciate it. Also, No Malanga's charity is at padsforourgirls.com. That's padsforourgirls.com. So if you support our girls and you want them to have what they need in order to be able to do all the other things in life, like go to school and things like that, go to padsforourgirls.com and make a donation. So I'll let you get the last point on this, Noma. So do you think, so with Carlotta Brown, the principal at James Madison High School, who just enforced this dress code, right now it looks like it's almost like a civil war. It looks like people are on both sides of the fence. Parents at the school, some parents are applauding, some parents are saying, oh my God, this is terrible, I hate you. What would you say at the end of the day, about this? I'll say this, and then I'd love to get your take on this. When I heard this story, I thought about, Henry Ford. And I remember Henry Ford, one of the things Henry Ford used to do that made people very upset was Henry Ford basically went to people and he made this deal. He said, look, I'll pay you double what you would make for other car manufacturers. I'm going to pay you extremely well so you can have a chance to have a better life. And in fact, I think he even bought houses and property for people, things like that. He said, however, you have to live a certain way. He said, I'm going to come, if I inspect your house and it's a dirty house, then you're going to get fired. If I see you're not raising your kids properly, you're going to get fired. And a lot of people felt that he was overextending, himself in terms of, overreaching into people's private lives and things like that. But then there were other people who felt that he was doing something good for these people by teaching them how to, have a life of dignity and pride and things like that. Even in Chicago, along the lakefront, there are all these big, beautiful museums there, but they can't build any property on the lakefront, which is about 25 or 30 miles long, and it's very valuable property, but you can't build anything on that area because they deliberately made it so that the beaches would be open for everybody because they wanted the rich people to engage with less with working class and poor people, because they felt that, and I don't know if this is a good thing or not, right? They felt that, that by having the poor see how the rich were living and how they raised their children and how they dressed, that it would lead them to live more distinguished lives. And some people would say that that was very classist, right? So it's almost like I'm doing a nice thing for you, but I'm doing it for reasons that could be easily criticized. What are your thoughts on that in terms of, how we can encourage people to know their personal power, to know their freedom, to do better if that's what they want to do, while at the same time respecting their right to individual liberties and the right to always have their humanity respected, no matter how they dress and everything else. What do you think?
Right. So the first thing, Boyce, is these parents have the choice to not have their kids at that particular school, because apparently it's not the district, it's just that school. So there's your first choice. Okay. Then the second thing is what you described with Henry Ford is basically a code of conduct. The military has a code of conduct. Most institutions that deem themselves respectable and hold themselves to high standards have a code of conduct. And I applaud her for creating a code of conduct at her school that doesn't just apply to the children, but extends to the people who affect the children, affect the children's learning, affects the children's thinking, affect the children's environment. So it comes down to two things. Either you're choosing success or you're choosing failure, right? And she's clarifying very, very specifically how success looks, okay? Successful people do this, they dress this way, they behave this way, and not just you children, but also your parents. And you're not gonna get me to criticize her for doing that.
Well, you know what? I will say that it's not so much a matter, for me, it's not a matter of like whether it's right or wrong, because it's right or wrong depending on your perspective, right? So I'm not even here to debate with people about whether or not what the principal did was right or wrong. I would almost look at it as, what do you want? And understanding that, what it is, just knowing what it is and what's really happening here, and then deciding based on your own moral perspective where you want to be on this. So the question I would probably ask parents, if I was this principal and I wanted to have the dress code and everything else, is I would probably ask the parents, like, look, do you want your children to be successful in life? And what does success look like for you, right? And so a lot of people might say something like, well, success means my child's going to have a good job and make a lot of money or whatever, right? Well, then I would then tell them, like, well, to get those jobs and to make a certain amount of money, there is a code of conduct that is expected. There's a level, there's an expectation there, and there's a culture, that you must fit into in order to be successful. And then give them that choice, as you mentioned. You don't have to come to this school. It's like if you go to you send your kids to a Catholic school, right? They're going to do Catholic stuff, and if you don't like it, you can go to a different school, right? So it's almost like codes of conduct usually come into play when you have people that have sort of an agreed upon objective, like a football team says, our goal is to win games, and to win games we must do this. So to be on this team, you must follow this code of conduct. And I think that's a conversation that can and should be had amongst Black people, because we do have an objective. We're trying to overcome this white supremacy thing. We're trying to build wealth. We're trying to get stronger, better communities, right? And this idea, this libertarian concept that you can just do whatever the hell you want and still win is a lie, right? Like it's like teaching an athlete. It's like a little kid playing a sport and being told that you can eat donuts every day and not practice at all, and you're still going to have a chance to win the trophy. No, your fat ass will be in the back of the bus. Like, you won't win anything, right? But we contradict that when we don't want to hurt people's feelings, so we go out and we give everybody a trophy just because they ran in the race. No, in the real world, the fat kid in the back does not get the trophy. It's the person who trained, who prepared, who's in good shape, who worked hard, who sacrificed. And in fact, when they did a study on which communities tend to succeed at the highest levels, one of the biggest factors was, are you willing to sacrifice for the future? Are you willing to sacrifice for your own future by working hard today? Are you willing to sacrifice for your children's future by giving some things up now? I see a whole lot of Asian, Arab, and Indian families, Nigerian families, that will line up at these really expensive educational institutes. One of my friends runs one of those places. It's like Sylvan Learning Center, except it's different. And they prepare kids for college and all that. It's expensive, like thousands of dollars. And parents who don't even really have that much money will fight to get their kids in there, because they're like, our child must have straight A's. They must get into a top college. They must be positioned for success. And I just don't see that in our community, because I think that we're infected a little bit with slave culture. I see us fighting for Beyonce tickets. I see us fighting to get our kids into football camp, right? I see us fighting to get into the big basketball game, but I don't really see as much of us fighting to get our kids into academic programs, right? So it's okay to not do that, right? I think it's totally fine. Like, do whatever you want. Like, if you want to go to see Beyonce, yeah, I'm sure watching Beyonce is more interesting than reading a damn book. But don't think that you can go and do that instead of this and then still get the same rewards you would get if you had done this instead of that, right? Like, you can't go and be, you can't go and ignore education and then expect to get the same benefits of the people who invested in education. Life does not work like that, right? And I think that that's what the principal is trying to communicate. I don't know if a rule is the best approach, because I think it might alienate some people. I have a friend, Dr. Kevin Cosby, who has a great saying where he says, before you correct, you must connect. So I wonder if it could have been a better way to encourage parents to do better, as opposed to forcing them to do better, which is going to cause some parents to not even want to come to school at all, or to fight you. I don't know. Yes, I don't know the answer to that question, but I do think that, I definitely believe her heart's in the right place. But I think with your heart being in the right place, sometimes that means you have to be open-minded enough to say, well, maybe my approach wasn't the best approach maybe we can work to partner instead of me telling you what to do. Let's partner on ways that we can achieve this goal together. And maybe that would have been an approach that could have worked a little bit better with the parents. I don't know though. I'll let you get the last word before we head on out.
I already got the last word.
I know. I have to get it all out. I can't help it. It's my passion for the topic.
One of the things that, the most basic things that I've always lived by is that high standards only oppress people who are determined to have low standards. When the bar is raised, even if you can't really do what is being asked of you, if you're willing to try, you don't feel oppressed by the high standard. The only people who feel oppressed by high standards are people who are determined to not have, to be mediocre.
Interesting. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, that is kind of a strange paradox, right? When you fight hard to defend your right to be mediocre, but I don't know, who knows? Well, you guys feel free to leave your comments. Let us know what you think. Also,
it's so diplomatic today.
Right, I know. Well, I'm diplomatic because I literally am diplomatic in my head. When I feel strongly about something, I try to understand other points of view because that's how you learn. I only learn from listening to people who disagree with me. I don't learn so much when somebody just tells me, oh, everything I said was right. So I try to be open-minded, but it is what it is. So I want to say thank you guys for hanging out with us, Dr. Bush TV. Leave your comments. And also, if you have suggestions on future topics you'd like for us to discuss, feel free to share. Those of you who follow me on Facebook, if you have a story that you think would be interesting for the show, feel free to pop it into my inbox, stuff like that. My Instagram's The Real Voice Watkins, so you can feel free to do that. Those of you on YouTube, I see you and I love you and I appreciate you very much. Also, Nomalanga with Shellie Moses, 2 URLs where you can follow Nomalanga, flynubianqueentv.com. She posts there on a regular basis, so you can go check that out. And also padsforourgirls.com, padsforourgirls.com. That's her charity in Botswana, where she's helping young ladies to get sanitary napkins that they need in order to go to school and things like that. A lot of young ladies have to miss school because they don't have access, to pads. And so it's very easy. It's not a big deal. I mean, most of you are going to go up and give tons of money to white people today. Just give a little bit to your community. Give a little bit to people that look like you. And I'm going to tell you like this. Even though I am an American descendant of slaves, I am ADOS. I am also a person who believes in supporting Black people around the world. And so that's why I work very, very hard to learn about what's happening in Africa, because I think that, as David Banner told you guys when he was on here the other day, he said, instead of just looking to the future to improve our community, we need to look to our past. And if you look at our past, it ain't here. It go back far enough, it's actually in Africa. So we should take that time to make those connections and achieve that understanding, so we don't spend our lives as arrogant Americans, because half of us are full of crap. So
thank you so much for your support.
What did you say?
I said thank you so much for your support.
Absolutely. So everybody, please hit the thumbs up button. Please subscribe. Also, if you want to get something for your kids to do this summer, you can go to financialworkbooks.com or financialflashcards.com. We have flashcards and workbooks just for Black children that you can go check out and give your kids something good to do in the summer. Have them learn a financial concept each day in exchange for their allowance or something like that. Make financial literacy part of your children's regular weekly routine. That's how they become better. That's how we're going to win. By about the year 2070, I believe that we can have Black children as the most financially literate people on the planet. I think we can shift that culture. Also, last but not least, today at 2 p.m. Eastern, Dr. Claude Anderson will be here. So maybe come in about 2:15 because it takes him a second to get started. And also, we're doing the screening of Black Capital tonight, the latest creation from Boyce Watkins Films. And director Peter Parker and rap star Jay Ortiz are going to come through. They're stars of the show, and Peter is the director. So we're bringing him in for a Black Business School discussion. So if you want to come in, join theblackbusinessschool.com. That's theblackbusinessschool.com. I know I always give you guys a mouthful of information, but we're always busy. We're always working. We're always doing things for the community. So I want you guys to be a part of this. We are your family. We are your university. We want to be part of whatever you're doing in your life, because I know that we can help you a lot more than they can. So thank you, Nomalanga. I appreciate your time. All right. And you guys have a great day. See you soon. Bye-bye.